Well, thanks guys for dialing in, and thank you very much, Monica, for coming back to join us before she starts her working day. So Monica was one of the first, not the first, but one of the first wave of interns who ever came on Start Me Up Bali, when it was kind of just me doing everything. And she was a wonderful person to have around, and she had seemed to get on very well with her startup. I think they really wanted her to stay in Bali forever and work with them. And so I thought I'd invite her back, because since then she's kind of had a really interesting career, and she's traveled, and she's kind of already switched sectors. So I thought it would be cool to have Monica come back and answer some of your questions and some of my questions, I guess, about her career and like where it's got her so far, and kind of how she ended up in this particular job. So I got Gabe. I know you sent me some questions, but you can ask them during the call as well. Is there anything that anyone? I mean, I was just going to sort of fire away with the first few questions, but does anyone have any questions for Monica before I start interrogating her?
I guess like first, like, how did you get into consulting? Like, I mean, it's a pretty broad question, but like, I feel like working at a place like McKinsey, it's like pretty hard to like break into like a big place like that.
Yeah. So how did you get into it?
I'm having a bit of trouble with the noise, and I actually didn't understand very well. Sorry.
Can you hear me talking, Monica?
Yeah, I can hear pretty well. Yeah.
Okay. I think Gabe was just saying, like how do you break into consulting at somewhere like McKinsey? So like, was it? Did you go straight out of university, or did you have another job before you applied?
Yeah. Well, I had a weird job before applying to consulting. So I had this weird job, then the Start Me Up experience, and then the consulting time at McKinsey. So this weird job, what I call I call it weird job because it was at the university. So like actually the university hired me to lead like a what is called Formula Student Team, which is basically like a Formula One of universities. So I did this really fun job of leading like a 50 people team of students, of colleagues in the end. That's why it was weird, because it was a job, but it was with my friends, so really weird. And yeah, so basically it was me and another guy leading the team, doing like a very engineering kind of thing, but also very startup-y. That's why I kind of started to get hooked on the entrepreneurial world. So the goal was to design from scratch like a Formula Student car, which is like a mini Formula One car. Build it, so go through all the process of like getting all the parts, building it together, manufacturing, that sort of thing. And then in the summers we would race, like go to races with other universities. So a lot of fun. That was my first.
Sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Because that's quite interesting, because I often think that the stereotypical McKinsey candidate is someone who just like goes straight through university, like massive high flyer, can't wait to get started with their career, just like climb up the ladder as quickly as possible. But you didn't really do that.
I mean, there are some of those, of course, like people that I don't know, follow the path and whatever, but I can say I've met very weird people at McKinsey. I can give you two examples that like all the time I remember them, and it's crazy. So one of my managers was a professional cycler, do you call him? Like he cycled, like, and he cycled with like, I don't like people in Spain when Spain was super high in cycling, like he was a rock star in cycling, and then he went to McKinsey. Like, I really don't understand his mind. The other example is of this woman that she actually participated in Miss Spain, to go to Miss World, or however so she participated when she was 17 there. After that, she was like into construction. So she would be, you know, like with her hat in construction with a lot of, you know, male workers, and she was organizing there. So like a wonderful woman. And then she ended up in McKinsey. So there's really random profiles at McKinsey, which is fun.
Interesting. And so when did you actually graduate?
When? 2015, I graduated from mechanical engineering. Then I did for 1 year this Formula One weird job. And then I had kind of the sabbatical year in which I did the Start Me Up experience. Then in 2017, started working at McKinsey for 2 years, so like until last year. And then I started in McKinsey.org, which is where I am now, which is like an NGO founded by McKinsey, doing like more social oriented stuff that I can tell you about.
So why did they, okay, that's quite a lot of different points you've just made. Yeah. So let's dial back a little bit then. So what made you choose to go to McKinsey then after your sabbatical year, and like, why did you decide to do that?
So you asked, sorry, because I don't hear very well. You asked why did I go join McKinsey? And
yeah. So what made you decide to choose that like as a next step?
Yeah. So basically, I got hooked into the whole, you know, like managing teams, business kind of thing from that experience at university. So I mean, I love engineering, but I wanted to put that, you know, like structure mind that I had from my degree especially into, you know, like solving business problems. And in business there's always this factor of, you know, like you can change a lot. So I love that. So then I saw so I thought that consulting was one of the well, there's a lot of types of consulting, but maybe strategic consulting could give me a lot of training, like on the ground training in that field. So a lot of experience of how actually different businesses work, what sort of problems they solve, that sort of thing. So I saw consulting as a great way to learn about a lot of things and like learn myself how to solve a lot of business problems, as actually, you know, like as a way someday to prepare me for having my own business, which is something that I like would absolutely like, I don't know, it's a dream that I will someday do for sure.
Don't do it. No, it's great. Yeah.
Hi guys, sorry.
Hey, Victoria.
So I had problems. I think I in the beginning I didn't hear you, so if I was looking weird, then you know why. But yeah, I suppose we ask questions and
yeah, so you
everything.
can ask questions. I'm asking questions, but if you have the questions, you can ask them now, or yeah, do you have any off the bat, Victoria, or are you?
No, I haven't heard what you've been talking about so far, but
cool.
I will tell you when I have.
So okay, I've got a question for you, Monica. What do you strategy consultants actually do all day? You know, because I still don't really know what you guys do.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I once had a partner that described us as well, that's how he described it to his kids, so that's why it's very simple. We were like doctors of companies, so that's kind of the analogy, which I don't know, I find very, very funny. So basically there in management consulting or in strategy consulting, we try to help different companies with well, their problems, but not also like problems, but their challenges, you know, like sometimes there are growth or they want to like launch a new product, that sort of thing. So we engage in different projects. So this is where it varies a lot between different consultancies. When we're talking about strategic consulting, typically they're like, well, in my experience, they were like from 1.5 months to 5-month projects, so pretty short. In the 2 years that I was in in the traditional consulting, I think I went through 8 projects, all of them in different industries and different functions. So that because of that diversity, is very difficult to explain like what is the common thread. But basically, the common thread is to solve their problems. Maybe I can put you a couple of conceptual examples just to like visualize how this is. So one of my projects, we were helping telecommunication company in setting their in restructuring around customer journeys. So this was very nice because actually it tied back to my startup experience where I was doing
Start Me Up internship helped you at McKinsey. Can I have that for the website, please?
I'm so proud of that. Yeah. So basically, the problem of the company is that they worked in silos. So like you have the sales department, and you have then the how you call it in English, like the service, like the support, like the call
customer service. Yeah.
And then you've got marketing, and then you've got all this like engineering, and they worked in silos, and they had really, so this made them have really like essential problems with their customers, like the customer experience was terrible. So what they asked us like the help is to restructure themselves into like organized, like the whole company was like a 3,000 employee company, to restructure themselves or have some sort of structure that where they could analyze customer journeys and improve the customer satisfaction. So we help them in like how to organize sub teams that were across all the departments, and how to what objectives.
Your microphone. Watch out, your microphone. Whenever you touch it, it goes funny.
Sorry, yeah, I don't even know what
So how big are these companies then typically? They're not exactly small companies, are they? The minimum size of a company that works with McKinsey is probably quite substantial.
That's a good question. They're typically big. So this one was, for example, like 3,000 employees. I mean, there are even like typically like from the biggest companies to some mid-tier, but typically like the biggest companies. The good thing that like for me, it's something I would never do in my life, is work for a big company. Maybe a lot of you share this feeling, like you get trapped in all the corporate bureaucracy and like ways of working, and it's I don't know, I it's never been on my to-do list or of things that I would like, or in my bucket list. But working in management consulting enables you to have like the impact that these companies can have. So I mean, they're really big, and you can help solving their problems kind of affects a lot of people and a lot of customers. So you help, you get a great impact, but you work like a small company. So the teams are, I don't know, my biggest, like from 3 people to 8 people typically, and you work with clients closely. So you have the dynamics of a smaller company, if that makes sense.
Do they hire you to do a specific thing, like improve customer experience, or do they just say, look, we're worried about the whole trajectory of our industry, so like we need you to look at our finance and our business model and like all of these different things?
So they hired me as a generalist, so like no specific specialty, I guess. But so that made me work. This project was like a customer experience project, but I also did like an expansion project, which is pure strategy and business models, like, hey, we're in these countries and we want to go to these other countries. I also did very like really weird and like nearly legal project. I'm an engineer and I was helping, like working with lawyers in how to structure a business deal. So it's super diverse and it gives you kind of, I don't know, a really big picture of very different problems.
Okay, that's good to know. Does anyone have any questions in chat? Has anyone asked any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Like, how do you get the experience, like, to help, like, in so like varied problems? Because like you talk about like low stuff, you talk about like expansion project. It's so different. Like, how do you get the experience to be able to help them with like these different projects?
So yeah, sorry again. The microphone is really bad.
Oh, okay.
The speaker. So you're asking how
Basically, how do you go and address these problems for these companies when you actually have no experience? Like Monica, the lawyer.
how are we useful, right? That's actually, yeah, a lot of people ask it because McKinsey is made of really young people, and a very typical picture is, this sort of, recently graduated or nearly recently graduated, very young people coming into a company, meeting with the CEO, the CFO, and all, like the chair, and people are like, you're gonna solve the problems that we like have been working on for, like 50 years, and there's a lot of that from the clients as well. So it's a good question, but I strongly feel that there is value to add, even if you don't have specialty in a field. Have you ever, like, I don't know, been with a friend, they have a problem, they're like super on the nitty-gritty of the problem, and you ask them certain questions and it helps them? Well, it's, I don't know, I have had that feeling in my life before. So I think that's how being a consultant feels. So we help a lot with structuring problems, finding the solutions, help the hello.
Yeah, I'm still here, but you freeze occasionally.
Sorry, I've lost you. I cannot see you.
We can see you.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can see you now. Yeah.
Okay, great. We're back.
So I was saying.
Yeah, just you were saying, sorry, that you help them structure problems and ask the right questions. And I think there's so much to be said for being new to an industry, actually. So like with you guys, with your internships, like, you should not underestimate the power of a fresh pair of eyes to look at a problem in a different way. This is less of an issue with startups because they tend to be new, but like with big companies, people who've been in the industry for decades, that's sometimes a bad thing, not a good thing, because they're just like, oh, we've been doing it like this forever, and this used to work really well in the 90s. And I've worked in industries where, like publishing, where I've just seen the manager, the directors of the companies just bury their head in the sand because they don't want to accept that the world is changing. And so, like, yeah, I can see how that would be really helpful.
If I may add, yeah, that's defending a little bit of how fresh eyes can contribute. I also have to say that I have so much respect for like the experienced people that I've worked with clients. I mean, I've worked with people, like 60-year-old people, become friends with them, like because we were working like super close to each other. And it's wonderful because from some of my clients, they also saw me like with this open eyes of, hey, you bring another contribution, I have my experience, and the thing is how to make it work together. So I see a lot of value in like experience. It's really good, especially when they're
definitely like and this is something you guys should also think about, is mentors. Like, so that I found that informally throughout my career, that I would just make friends with older people whose experience that I kind of was like, I'm really interested in, and you'd be amazed how many older people do want to mentor younger people earlier in their careers. Like, they actually really like it. So if someone's doing something that you think that you admire, then definitely recommend like that you sort of engage with them and ask them for advice, because normally it does end up well. So tell me, how did your Start Me Up Bali experience, I'm curious, how did that prepare you or not for life? at McKinsey?
Yeah. Well, it changed my life. So, I mean, as I was saying, telling you guys before, at McKinsey there are, which is my experience so far, right? So there um, are a lot of really different profiles, and it's really nice, or for me, it's really valuable to have, like, have seen a little bit of the world, have other experiences, and actually that makes you bring new capabilities, fresh air, new points of view. And in that sense, I'm super fan of diversity. So in that sense, Start Me Up and the whole Bali experience, plus my previous experience in this weird Formula One thing that I told you, um, gave me like a really diverse background to contribute to the table. So it's maybe, I don't know, my head works different. I know the like the advantages of working in a very dynamic environment, and you can actually bring of some of those learnings of how to work in a startup to how to work in in a small team, or how to, like, learnings that a big company can have. And I actually remember things that I learned of actually this project that I was telling you, actually like applying. I don't know, I remembered when I was in a whiteboard with the guys of the company where I was in Start Me Up, and I was facilitating kind of a workshop kind of thing. And I had never done that sort of thing before, like co-creating together, putting yourself in your user's shoes, and actually like coming up with ideas. That was a skill that I used at McKinsey, and I'm actually using it like at mckinsey.org now, like in 4 hours I am facilitating a workshop online. Of course, it's really in like an online tool, and that is actually a really similar work to what I was doing in Bali. So actually, I don't know, there's and only because I did that, I kind of was able at some point to say, hey, I kind of have an idea of how we can make these ideas. Why don't we do a workshop of this type or this other type? And actually the idea kind of, people were like, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do it. And we did it. So yeah, I don't know. I think previous experience makes you have good ideas and a different way of approaching things.
Good. Okay, well, that's good to hear. I've got one more question that I'm really curious about. I applied for McKinsey when I was at university, and I got invited to an assessment center, and then I didn't go because I was too scared of how much work it would be. What are the working hours for normal McKinsey graduates, like when they're first? How bad is it?
It's pretty tough, especially I'm not gonna lie, like sincerely, it's pretty tough, especially in the Madrid office. So if you work in other offices, it's much better. But overall for me, it's the good thing is that, like, the flexibility, and everyone is super open to, hey, I've got this how about we shift, or I cover you, that sort of thing. So people really work in a team. I don't know, I did have times where we had a meeting the next day and the work had to be done, and I was working until midnight, sometimes later, not always, of course. And I don't know, generally otherwise I was working like 9 p.m. sort of thing, sometimes starting later, I don't know. So
weekends? Weekends?
Oh, actually no, that's a thing that I got very, yeah, I super, and my environment around me was super supportive, thank God. I mean, I would really would have pushed for that, because that's not a thing I was like open to sacrifice. So yeah, it is tough. It's especially tough in the Madrid office. So if you are in any other office, if you're applying to any other office, it's for sure to be better. The lovely thing is that McKinsey is super committed to resolving this, and it's, for me, from my experience, it's real. So there are like initiatives going on. People are super open to openly talk about it and find ways of being more efficient, to work less, of how to, you know, align scope with client in order um, to agree the things, the way we're going to work, so that it's not excessive on the team. So there's a lot of improvement on that. And yeah, overall, I think it was, I don't know, it's a great experience, and I have not felt that I've had less of a life, but more of a life, which for me is very important, right? So so McKinsey's given me in that sense a lot of, I don't know, you know, really cool friends that want to do crazy stuff. And I've done, through my 2 years at McKinsey, I've done really, I don't know, cool things with people from McKinsey. I mean, I've climbed Kilimanjaro with a group, like we all took, you know, holidays and did this crazy thing. I've done, like, I don't know, we went to Iceland and did like a road trip, and we went to as well, did like canoe trip of,
So
you
it's
know,
not just work then.
no, it's giving me much more, like, looking back at those 2 years, because now at McKinsey.org is so lifestyle is much better. Like I don't work, I don't know, I work normal hours, or I think so.
So this is interesting, because a lot of people don't know that McKinsey.org, you know, that McKinsey even has this kind of, is it a social impact or social enterprise? What do you call it? Is it?
It's actually, it's a spin-off of McKinsey. It's called McKinsey.org, so it has a name and it's very connected, but it's like an independent company. So it's actually a non-profit, and it was founded in order to solve the world's global complex problems. That's kind of
She's gone again. Oh.
Yeah,
you were muted
can't...
briefly. You're back. It's fine.
Okay, cool. So McKinsey.org, yeah. So in this aim of solving global complex problems, the first problem that was decided to be tackled is the waste problem. So this is how the program that I'm working with, that is called Rethinking Recycling, was born. And it's sort of, it quite feels like a startup within McKinsey. So it's got the best of both worlds. It's a bit startup-y because we're like, what, 35 people, something like that. So it's kind of small. But we also have, you know, like a little bit of the McKinsey way of doing things. So it's a nice mix. I'm in heaven at the moment. Plus a great mission that I'm super passionate about. And actually, when I went to Bali, this is another good thing of my experience, was when I was, I don't know, first shocked with the plastic problem, especially in the ocean. So many things from my start me up experience. So in this Rethinking Recycling program, we have like 2 pilot sites. So basically the aim of the program is make recycling system work. So both on the community side and on the company side, the companies that actually recycle and sell those products to companies like Coca-Cola or Nestle, in the case of plastics. So basically we like found 2 pilot locations where we could work. And one of them is actually Bali again.
Coincidentally.
It's a beautiful circle all going around Bali.
So McKinsey.org is, I know that there's some other organizations that we're talking to for some of our engineering projects who are partnering with McKinsey.org and Sanur as well.
Yeah.
So they chose, I was just saying to Monica, they chose really good places, Bali and Buenos Aires, like 2 awesome spots.
Yeah.
I have a question. You know, you said about mentioning that you wanted to start your own company in the future. Would that be more of the kind of McKinsey consulting side, or more of the McKinsey.org social impact nonprofit side?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not starting a consulting company. I would love to start a company much more with either. So I'm here because of the mission, right? So I'm really love the waste problem. I think it's a super complex problem to solve, and there's many ways of tackling it. So if I someday like found a company, I would it would probably be much more like similar to a startup than to, you know, like a big corporate thing. At the moment, I'm just exploring a little bit of the topic, the field, where different kinds of solutions there are there. Yeah, maybe sometimes I don't know, the idea, the moment, the place comes, and I can start something.
Do you guys have any questions?
Someone had one question.
I think Victoria
Yes.
has a question.
So hi, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, so I posted in the chat. So basically, like the situation that I'm currently in right now is that I'm a team leader for 180 Degrees Consulting in Vienna, and we are working with social impact projects. So everything is like nonprofit and working for the greater good. And I wonder partly, one, I had never heard about McKinsey.org actually, so I'm super interested in it. Do you have any events or any kind of online check-ins that I could join, or any kind of way of getting in contact with you? And the other thing is, which has been like one of the most interesting projects you were talking about waste, of course, but a project where you really felt that this was something that I really want to take as my, because I feel really emotionally connected when I work with these projects, and I think it's really it's about changing the world and making it better. So is there a project that is your kind of favorite, and what was the experience like?
Okay. So first question of the, you know, events and that sort of thing, we don't really have events for recruiting, like, because we're really small. So, and we don't have a big focus on recruiting. So what I would advise you, if you're interested, is apply through. So in the website we have the contact where you can apply for recruiting, write a cover letter, that sort of thing. If you're really interested and you want to do that, my second advice is contact me and we can talk about it. And in a separate channel, I'm super open to that. Anyone in the room or not in the room. On your second question, could you actually repeat it? You were because I didn't hear very well. I'm sorry. The audio comes really bad in this computer.
Sure. So I was just interested in, because I think it's a different thing to do consulting for like just general business projects and for social impact projects. And for me right now, I mean, I'm working with female leadership and female empowerment, and I think that's something that is really close to my heart. So I was just wondering about your experience. Like, is there a certain project that's really spoke to you, that you get really emotionally connected to, and perhaps you are working on that even perhaps in your spare time? I mean, for me, I've been doing so much extensive research on female leadership and entrepreneurship, and so I've been almost letting it take over my evenings. So just a little bit about your personal experience and perhaps a favorite project.
So, so the question is, what was my favorite? Sorry, the audio is really bad. So
yeah,
I understood all the context, but the question is what was my favorite experience specifically, or?
Yes.
Cool. Well, definitely the work that I'm doing now at McKinsey.org has been the best so far. Mainly for me because it has, you know, I have a foot on the strategy, and it's got a really, you know, ambitious goal. So it is about a strategy, but I've got another foot on the field, which I love, and it's something that I'm personally made for, right? So I knew when I was entering consulting that I was not going to be all my life helping others, you know, in their strategy and not actually doing. So, you know, this duality of having those two things that balance the life is something that I absolutely love. And above that, obviously, that it's a super inspiring project that we are doing. And I can briefly tell you a little bit of what the project is about exactly. So we work in a slum in Buenos Aires, and here we work with the community and with the waste workers, so that we kind of do this capability building program and trainings with the waste workers, so that they go from you know, a waste worker that just picks up the waste of a slum. You cannot imagine, I think, a job more bottom of the pyramid, to change agents and promoters of recycling, and they're seen as, you know, community leaders with their like the other residents in the slum. So it's a wonderful transformational journey, and in that journey we evaluate what makes people recycle. We, you know, extract learnings and find, you know, like this sort of playbook, or like how to make a community recycle. And we, you know, like test things, super data driven. So that makes you enables you to be strategic and, you know, analyze things from an analytical point of view as well.
I've got a question, Monica. How many of the people who work at McKinsey.org used to work at McKinsey, the consulting firm?
How many people like
used to work for, do what you did?
So if we're kind of 35 in the or maybe 40 in the global team. So because we have people in Indonesia, in Buenos Aires, and in the US, especially the leadership. In Buenos Aires, we're like 20 people team, I think, and maybe half of them have a McKinsey background. So that makes it super diverse, because within the McKinsey background, people are, well, I don't know, there was one guy from Peru, from Belgium, Brazilian one, me from Spain, another for Portugal. So like super all over the world, super interesting. And then on the non-McKinsey background, people really like, I don't know, a woman that came from like brand consulting, that sort of thing, which is like super original. People that were into impact investment, I don't know, really
so diverse
different backgrounds. So but yeah, more diverse than McKinsey even.
How many? Who else here has some questions?
I have a question.
Oh yeah.
But that is more regarding like, I suppose that since you're very diverse, it's hard to say which kind of profile would fit for McKinsey.org. But what kind of key characteristics would you be looking for if you are recruiting new people? And what can I do to increase my chances to get employment in case I choose to apply?
Cool. So what are we looking for? We're looking for, well, passionate people. That's super important. I think that's how I got in. We're looking at people that have some, even if they don't have like McKinsey background, people that have certain, you know, structuring ability and the I don't know, communication ability. So it's very important, like how you position yourself and all that. In backgrounds, we're pretty open. Like different experiences are indeed interesting in that sense. And of course, I mean, we're looking at like aiming for good like people that are able to think analytically. So in that sense, it's kind of similar to what does McKinsey and company look for, like that specific analytical thinking part. Also, it's a super plus to have any social experience, sustainability experience, anything that is related to waste is even more interesting. And I mean, yeah, that's a little bit. What can you do? You can definitely like have a chat with me, and we can talk and see like how you can like position the work that you do or the interests that you have had into, you know, like an interest letter, a cover letter. And I mean, reach out to the leadership of the team. It's a kind of a small startup. We do have kind of a lot of people wanting to come in, just because McKinsey, like, you know, like the McKinsey name plus a really cool topic. It's I don't know, a little bit of a
sweet spot.
Yeah, sweet spot. It's good. But I think there's chance. I mean, it's weird in these times of coronavirus. We don't we don't even know if we have to pivot in certain things. So I mean, there is certain uncertainty as in any other job. So I would also encourage to be very open and express your openness in all your communications in general, because and this is for everything. I think companies are a bit pushed on not sure if they want
everything. Yeah.
So
Gabe, you have questions. Do you have questions?
Yeah, I had a question more about McKinsey. Like, I know it's like a really like competitive like recruiting process, and I was just wondering if you could talk about like your experience with that. Like, I know there's like a lot of I know there's like case studies and like everything like that, and like I just wonder if you could talk about it.
Yeah. So basically, for those that maybe don't know, the recruiting process has like, I would say, 4 phases. So the first phase is cover letter and curriculum. That's kind of screening kind of phase. Then you've got a test or some sort of like analytical thinking, like a test. And then you have 2 rounds of interviews. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit of the interview part, which I guess it's the most interesting. The 2 rounds of interviews, each interview has the same structure, but then different people like ask different questions. So each interview has 2 parts, like a personal fit part or like an experience part, and the business case interview. My first recommendation is to not underestimate the personal part, especially if you have a cool background like you all guys have, because you, I don't know, have been working in a startup and that sort of thing. So in that personal part, you get asked questions such as, tell me once in your life when you faced a conflict and how you resolved it. Many other examples of questions that cannot be very standardized. There's many different types. But my approach was to really think of points, like stories in my life that I could be telling. They could be really small stories, but it's all about how you see your own story and how you want to tell it. So I mean, it can be of how, like, in my university I had like a group work and a conflict or whatever, and how you solved it. So it's really about how you see your personal role in that story. If you have big stories, of course, choose them. If you have small, like, go for it and focus on the how to tell it. So that's a little bit for the personal part. And then for the business case, for those of you who don't know, it's just basically like a real example or fiction example of a problem of a company, and you, like, in, I don't know what, 30 minutes or 40 minutes, you kind of solve it with the interview. And here it's all about how you think of the problem, how you structure the problem, and your ability to, break the problem into several buckets and analyze piece by piece. What I did here is, I don't know, to look in the internet, like reach out to friends, how did you do it, that sort of thing, to prepare myself. And a very useful thing to do. At that time I live in the north of Spain. So I don't have in the countryside, so I didn't have people around to actually physically practice with. So I joined an online platform to practice, and it kind of paired me with people that were also trying preparing for their case. So this was actually my first fully online preparation. Now that I see the coronavirus, it seems very relevant. But yeah, practice out loud. Because it's very different. Like you're an engineer, maybe you know how to do the numbers very well, but it really is not useful if you go through the case okay, the answer is 75. I mean, it might be 75. It really doesn't matter. It's more about how you communicate, how you thought about, the numerical part, and speak up and share how you did it. And maybe at the end you said 65, there was some calculation in the middle, and it doesn't really matter. So yeah, it's if you guys have or some of you have an engineering background, there's a lot of communication work that you can do. Actually, one of the things that I did was record myself like explaining certain things, and it was a really painful process, because you see yourself on the screen and it's terrible, but it does make you improve. So yeah, I guess that's
well, I've got a question. What proportion of the intake are engineers? Like what's do they take all subject disciplines? And
they take a lot of variety. I think in Spain, they take a lot of engineers, because there's a lot of us who do engineering that are then looking for somebody else. It might be different in other countries. Like I have friends in Germany where, like if you study engineering, they actually work as an engineer afterwards. So that's more like common there. So in my class, we were like 40, like my class is how like my generation that we came at the same time at McKinsey, we were like 40% engineers. Then maybe like 30% were from business or business and law. And then the rest, like the other 30% were diverse backgrounds, like other things.
I've got one. I know you need to get on with your working day really soon.
Okay, I can roll it up to 2 p.m.
Okay. Anyone got any questions for priorities to people who haven't asked a question yet? Lara?
Okay. I just had a question about, obviously you are kind of like an NGO type of body, but working in a very, because McKinsey kind of gives off the kind of corporate body. I think everyone would kind of put it in that box. And I was just wondering that, do you see kind of a trend, or in your work at least, a move towards public and private sector partnerships and kind of working together with the private sector and the public sector to kind of co-create or solve issues in any way? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, love that question. I mean, in my current work, I completely see that. I'm not sure if it's a trend. Like globally, I have heard that partnerships across all the sectors are being more essential, and I do think that is working every time a bit more. Actually, like the how do you call it? Not the logo, but the phrase of McKinsey.org is partnering for impact. So we do a lot of connecting the different like public sector, private sector, in order, because we really believe it's essential to especially for such a complex problem as the waste problem, you need to engage with the government at a policy level, because you need policies in order to make people recycle. You need to leverage as many NGOs that are working for the topic, and you need the private companies that are the ones selling the products and are the ones incorporating the recycled material into their products. So in most of the really complex global challenges, it's really important to work in all of them together. And I don't know, I work daily. I see like government people that I work with, and we are super in contact with all the companies farther down in the value chain of the material. So like the recyclers and the people like the Coca-Colas and all that. So I truly see that it's the way. It's super difficult though, but it's it's the way to go for me.
Yeah, there's a whole art to partnerships and managing those and securing those. And it is, especially for smaller organizations, just absolutely essential, because you can't be expected to do everything well. So you need to really partner up with people who specialize in certain things. Great. Are we nearly out of time? Are we out of time?
I need to go, but if anybody has more questions, I'm happy to go.
One more question, or anyone? Zara? Astrid? No? We good? Well, we can always add you to the Slack channel, Monica, and then if people think of anything else, then maybe.
Happy to.
So thank you so much for jumping on the call with us and sharing your perspectives. It's really cool to hear what you've been up to since, when was it now? 3 years ago, I think.
A bit more. 2 years and a half.
3.5.
3 years.
I've aged badly. So really good to have you back, and I hope we can have you back again in the near future. And thanks you guys for all dialing in. And if you guys missed any of it, I did make a little recording which I can share with you afterwards. So yeah, thank you, Monica, again. Good luck with the day ahead.
Thank you very much, Claire, for inviting, for thinking of me to do this. I'm super to be like I don't know, to have people asking me questions. So
still part of the you're still part of the fam. There you go. Still part of the Start Me Up family. Cool. All right, everyone. Well, nice to see you all. Have great weekends, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.